Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
We are the Breakfast Club. Let's get in some front page news. Good morning, Morgan.
Good morning, y'all. Happy Friday and cheers to the freaking weekend.
Friday.
Yes. All right. So let's get into it. President Trump and the tariffs. Yeah. So he says the tariffs imposed on other countries are having the desired effect, and he's now open to negotiations. He made the comments while speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, saying his initial plan is over and now he's watching it just settle in. Let's take a listen to President Trump.
If somebody said that we're going to give you something that's so phenomenal, as long as they're giving us something that's good, every country's called us. That's the beauty of what we do. We put ourselves in the driver's seat.
Now, I do like the idea of America being the driver, but Trump said that every country has called asking to cut a trade deal with the U.S. to avoid the tariffs, adding that he's seen an uptick in plans to bring manufacturing plants back to the U.S. So if that was the plan all along, then it does appear to be working only just 24 to 48 hours later.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. They were saying these tariffs are a short-term plan. It was really done to shake things up and to get people to negotiate a little better. But in return, it's affected. They said the stock market has dropped. They said the Dow dropped 1,600 points. NASDAQ falls 6%. There's a lot of people that invest in that stock market are losing their ass.
But Morgan, I have a question for you. If what he's doing is working, why are people so upset when he says that he's going to do it if it works and then he kind of like backs away from it so that like we're not affected as bad?
You know what it is, Lauren, that I think that we just don't like change. You know, change is inevitable, and change that's too abrupt could be, it's like, it's scary. People don't know what's happening. But meanwhile, Europe and China are vowing to respond to President Trump's new tariffs. U.S. Commerce Secretary, come on Friday. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says countries should instead focus on reevaluating their current trade policies with the U.S., and he's confident that the U.S. will end up on the winning end of any potential tariff war. Let's hear more from U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick.
Stop saying that we can't sell our corn to India. Stop saying that we can't sell our beef anywhere. Just stop treating us so poorly. You're going to see American production start to rise and finally be fair.
Yeah, so Trump on Wednesday, of course, unveiled a list of over 180 countries and territories that were hit with reciprocal tariffs, and the news sent market sliding down in Europe and Asia. And the world's biggest economies vowed retaliation. Now, in Brussels, the head of the European Commission warned, if you take on one of us, you take on all of us. China's Commerce Ministry describes the tariffs as unilaterally bullying and said they will resolutely take countermeasures to safeguard its own rights and interests. And here domestically in the States, as you mentioned, MV, the stock market is coming off its worst day in nearly 5 years. Yesterday, just one day after President Trump announced his sweeping global tariffs, the S&P plunged 500 points, nearly 5%. That's the biggest drop for the broad market index since June of 2020, with investors fearing a global trade war. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed 4% lower, while the tech-heavy NASDAQ dropped 6%. Retail stocks were hit hard, with Nike shares falling more than 14%. And let's see if the market can stand to bounce back today as the week ends on what we hope is a strong note. So any thoughts on what's going on there?
But let me ask you this. If they're saying that the tariffs that he's putting on could be actually working, do we give him some time? Because, the first thing that people said was they were upset. It was going to cost, everything, the cost of home building, the cost of cars, the cost of goods were going to go up. But now they're saying that these countries are actually coming back and trying to negotiate. So it could have possibly be a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And do we have any choice but to give President Trump time? I mean, he's got 4 years. He's only 2 to 3 months in his term. And it doesn't seem like we really have much of a choice in terms of giving the man time. But we will see, we'll see what happens. I will add that the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, says his country will impose counter auto tariffs in response to President Trump's announcement, adding that he expects that it will impact the world. And he also added that the global economy is now fundamentally different than it was just days ago. Carney also said previously that retaliatory tariffs will remain in effect for Canada, and he said he doesn't believe Trump will change direction until the pain is felt by Americans due to the tariffs going so hard and being too hard to ignore. So we will see. It's one of those only time will tell type of things, it seems like. So
yeah. Well, I did see Ford post something yesterday, which I thought was very interesting after all of this. So Ford on the Instagram page posted, Ford, who assembles the most vehicles in the U.S.? Ford Motor Company, Ford America, for America. And he started posting all their cars. So I just thought that was a shot like, hey, we're building a lot of these cars in America here, outside of a lot of these other car companies. So I thought that was
that was kind of smart though.
I thought that was different.
Yeah,
that was dope. Yeah.
Tap in with the ads. Look, but before it, how much them cars gonna beat out? No, I'm not gonna get too much into that. But that's your front page news for 6 a.m. Stick around at 7. We will be talking about voting and whether or not a third term is truly viable. We'll get into that.
All right. Everybody else, get it off your chest. 800-585-1051. If you need to vent, phone lines are wide open. Again, 800-585-1051. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning. Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. Jess is out today. Lauren LaRosa filling in. And let's get in some front page news. Now, the NCAA Women's Tournament tonight. Texas take on South Carolina Gamecocks at 7.
Come on now.
And Connecticut takes on the UCLA Bruins tonight at 9.
Let's go, Cox. Yeah, that's what we say in South Carolina. Go, Cox. Okay?
I'm sure you say that.
Get
all
your
day
mind
long.
out the gutter.
I'm not. I just know you say. I can see you running around the streets
Can't
yelling
beat
that.
my Cox.
I can see you. Wow.
And don't bleep nothing, because that ain't nothing to bleep. That's on bumper stickers and everything. Okay?
You want them to hear you talk
Can't
about
beat my
that.
Cox. You goddamn right. South Carolina. That's my wife's alma mater. Okay? We big Gamecocks over here.
Okay. Good morning, Morgan.
Good morning.
You with the Cox too, Morgan, or no? You're not with the Cox.
I'm you know,
That's
look.
now it's time to call HR more.
Why?
That was unnecessary.
I'm talking Gamecocks.
He know you're not from
Nah,
South
don't do
Carolina.
it. But she might
say Gamecock fan.
He know you're not from South Carolina. There's no reason for him to say that to you.
You might be a Gamecock fan. I don't know. I'm just asking.
Let's get into the front page news, y'all. So let's talk elections and voting. So Arizona's attorney general is suing the federal government over President Trump's executive order on elections. Now, Trump's executive order would require people to show proof of citizenship while registering to vote in federal elections. It would also force states to stop accepting mail-in ballots that arrive after election days. So Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays said during a Thursday news conference that the state's election laws are protected by the U.S. Constitution. Let's take a listen to Attorney General Mays.
I will not allow our legislature's lawmaking ability to be trodden upon by a wannabe king. Our Constitution is absolutely clear. The states have the primary responsibility for regulating elections. Under the Constitution, the Arizona legislature has the power to regulate elections in our state.
So 19 states have now filed a suit against the executive order. And, you know, I think this is really interesting because you have a lot of primaries going on, a lot of local elections going on. And then, of course, in another 3 to 4 years or so, we will have another federal election, presidential election. So this comes as more than half of voters. This I was about to get into that. This comes as more than half of voters predict President Trump will try to serve a third term in the White House. That's according to a new YouGov poll. Over the weekend, Trump said he's not joking about attempting to serve a third term. In a call with NBC News, he said there are methods which you could do it. Now, Republicans have largely shrugged off Trump's comments about a third term as a joke. Meanwhile, nearly 7 in 10 survey respondents said Trump shouldn't be allowed to seek another term. But, you know, it seems to be a conversation, an ongoing conversation, even though the 22nd Amendment and the 12th Amendment pretty much make it null and void. So I'm curious to know what Trump's, quote, methods.
No, I'm not. I'm not curious about any of this. We have to stop talking about this like it's normal. It's unconstitutional to even speak like this. And if he wants to do something like this, it's unconstitutional. So if you don't like being called a fascist and you don't like people saying this is authoritarian rule, then stop doing and saying things that fascists and authoritarian leaders would do and say.
But don't you want to be like you want to know what's happening? So like what she's saying is like you just want to know you got to know what you're up against.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Don't shoot the messenger.
We shouldn't be acting like this is normal. We shouldn't be talking to people like this is normal. Like, hey, Trump's saying he wants to run for a third term. No, that's unconstitutional. That is literally the pure definition of fascism. Just speaking like that, like it's normal.
Okay, calm down.
But don't you need to know that it is that in order to be like, this is not normal?
Not if you're not gonna do nothing about it.
Who asked the question? Who asked the press question? Like, hey, are you running a third term? Like, who even asked that question? Like, why was that even a question?
Because
he's
saying
mentioned it. He's been joking about it. Well, that's what they're saying. You keep joking about it, and he's like, it's not a joke.
But to Envy's point, the reporter that's talking to Trump when they're doing that, why aren't you saying, Trump, don't you know that's unconstitutional? Don't you know that's fascism? Don't you know that's what authoritarian leaders do? You don't ask him the question like it's normal. So Trump, are you really thinking about running for a third term?
Do you know what happens
and
after
that? That's the problem with the media in 2025.
They're not
don't do the media.
Yes.
Don't do the media.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna do the media because you should not be asking Trump that question like it's normal.
Hey, look, when you get in and you have access, or when you don't, I'm just going to say you're going to try to ask what you want to ask. But let me not get too much into that. Speaking of elections, New York City Mayor Eric Adams is now running as an independent as he tries to get reelected. Adams released a video one day after a federal judge dismissed federal charges against him, saying he is going to forego the Democratic primary. The mayor says he is running as an independent. Let's take a listen to New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
Although I am still a Democrat, I am announcing that I will forego the Democratic primary for mayor and appeal directly to all New Yorkers as an independent candidate in the general election. I firmly believe that this city is better served by truly independent leadership, not leaders pulled at by the extremists on the far left or the far right.
So the mayor went on to say he believes the city is better served by a truly independent leadership. As you heard in the audio, Adams will take part in a mayoral forum, or he did take part in participate in a mayoral forum at the National Action Network convention in Midtown. He is behind in the polls that were taken prior to the federal charges being dismissed. So we will see what happens, whether or not that case being dropped impacts his campaign. And this last story is for anyone who travels. This is domestic. This is stateside. This is if you fly, period. Okay. So if you want to get on a flight or you want to find yourself on a flight at all, and it's just stateside, you need to listen up. You have just over a month before the TSA's deadline to have a Real ID license kicks in. I believe it's May 7th. TSA spokesperson Lisa Farbstein says Americans will need to have a Real ID compliant driver's license to take domestic and international flights. And she said it's best to get ahead of the deadline. Again, May 7th. Let's take a listen to TSA spokesperson Lisa Farbstein.
If they do not have a Real ID license, we need them to bring another form of acceptable ID, such as a passport, global entry card, something of that nature. We have the list of other acceptable IDs on the TSA website at tsa.gov. Or maybe there's a wedding, or maybe there's a funeral, or maybe there's a job interview in another state. And so, again, like insurance, you don't need it till you need it. So you want to do it, get your Real ID, travel like a pro.
I'm going to ask just a stupid question, right? And maybe it's just me. What is a Real ID, right? Now, I know I don't have one, right? Because I'm looking at my license right now, and it says not for Real ID purposes. But I just got my license. So what do I got to do different now? What's the difference?
Take it back to the MVA, or excuse me, MVA will be what we call it here in Maryland, or the DMV. The DMV. Take it back to the DMV. Well, not take it back, but go back to the DMV and ask them for a Real ID compliant issued license. So TSA officials say New Yorkers with enhanced licenses don't have to worry about making the switch since it's already a Real ID, and they'll know if they have it on if there's a flag in the corner. So meantime, DMVs across New York will start extending hours, and some in New Jersey will offer mobile events. That could be for you, MV. You could just pull up to one of those mobile events. But here, what I will say, here in Maryland, they've been pushing this for years. And what I understand is that supposedly something like 80 to 90% of Marylanders are already compliant with this. And they make it easy for us that, when you go renew, the new ID is going to be Real ID compliant. So I'm just saying that to people that, you don't want to be caught out there getting on a train, or excuse me, a plane. I'm not even sure if it goes with trains, but if you want to get on a flight real quick, it ain't going to be real quick if you don't have a real ID, if you're not real ID.
I was just curious, what's the difference between the real ID? They're both licenses, so what's the difference? Like, is there a barcode in the back? Like, what's the difference?
The real ID has a different. I don't know if it's different, but it has certain security standards that are specific to the real ID. That's not for the regular driver's license. I don't know what's the difference, but
I've been looking it up, but it's so hard to type with me.
Yeah,
Yeah, specific standards that verify the identity and is required for accessing certain federal facilities and boarding domestic flights.
So, what DMV can get me in and out real quick? You know what I'm saying? Shout out to all the DMVs in Jersey.
What's up?
Somebody hit me up. Miss Barber out there in Montclair, how are you? Okay, would love to get in and out real quick.
real quick.
And the other thing that I'm seeing too that just came up, you want to make sure that you have one because it can also further help you with voting. It's one of those things that basically say you are who you are. So as voting becomes and elections become a thing, and we see that's becoming a thing, you might want to go ahead and get Real ID compliant with, So that's your front page news, y'all. Follow me on socials at Morgan Media. And for more news coverage, follow at Black Information Network. Download the free iHeartRadio app and visit us at BINnews.com. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend.
All right.
See you later, Morgan.
Later, Morgan.
Peace, Morgan.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.